Hi, guys, today we gonna talk about a movie called Black Moon Snake from 2006. So without wasting any time, let's start. The movie begins with an intercourse scene between Ronnie and Ray. They are both intimate in the very first scene. Ronnie then starts to pack his stuff, but suddenly he feels an urge to vomit and Ray rushes to help him there. We then see Lazarus, an old religious resident of the town who is a farmer. Lazarus walks into a restaurant and sits at a table with his wife Rose. They then talk about divorce, however their polite conversation turns into a fight real quickly. Ronnie prepares to leave for his duty, but Ray is very unhappy. Ronnie then tries to calm her, but Try doesn't listen to him. Ronnie tells her that everything will be fine and gives Ray a watch. Ronnie tells her that his watch and hers would beep at the same time when it does. They'd be thinking about each other. Ronnie bids her goodbye by kissing her. Then he sits inside his car to leave. Ray tries to run behind the car, but suddenly she starts to feel very strong sexual urges. Then we see Ray having intercourse with a stranger. After doing it, Ray asks him for the money. The man gives her money and then she walks down the town. Meanwhile, Lazarus returns home after farming. Then he sees his wife Rose's rose. He stares at the roses and cuts them all. At night, Lazarus goes to a bar to drink. Suddenly, woman flaunts her new boots. Lazarus tries to calm that woman. Lazarus' ex-wife Rose's new boyfriend Dickie walks in and tries to make peace with Lazarus, but he doesn't like it all and tries to his face with a bottle. He then decides to return home. Meanwhile, Ray enjoys the night with her friends. They give her a bottle of vodka. Then the drug dealer arrives and sells them drugs. At the same time, Lazarus is frustrated and angry at his home. To calm himself, he picks up a guitar and starts playing it. Ray then plays football and a guy tackles her. Suddenly they start to make love to each other on the ground. Ronnie's friend Gil offers to drop her home, so he picks her up. Gil stops his car and asks Ray about all the affairs she's been having with guys lately. Gil finds it the perfect opportunity to make love with her, but Ray makes fun of his size. In anger, Gil brutally beats up her and kicks her out of the car. Ronnie also worries about Ray. The next morning, Lazarus takes out the trash and suddenly he sees something in the woods. He discovers a knocked out Ray on the ground. Lazarus then carries her back to his home. Ray keeps on saying thrown. Then he covers her body and goes outside to buy medicines. At the store, the owner Angela asks him why he wasn't in the church. Lazarus makes up an excuse and asks Angela for some medication. On the other side, Ray starts to wake up. Lazarus then drives to Tyrye's place. He then asks Tyrone about Ray. Tyrone reveals that Ray is a nymphomaniac. After hearing this, Lazarus returns. Upon arriving home, he discovers Ray on the floor and then he treats her wound. Suddenly Ray tries to make love to Lazarus, which shocks him. Lazarus then carries his Bible and runs outside. Ray starts to scream. Lazarus then fills his bathtub with some ice. He then puts Ray in the tub to make her fever go down. Ray falls asleep. Ray then starts to find Ronnie on the plantation and shouts his name. Lazarus comes and takes her back. Lazarus then puts her to sleep. In the morning, Lazarus checks on his crops. He then enters his house and sees that Ray finally wakes up after 2 days. Then they both discuss what happened to her the night, but Ray says she doesn't want to talk about it and tries to leave, but she finds herself locked in chains. She asks Lazarus what is time and orders him to remove them immediately. Laz refuses and asks her why she allowed herself to get used by men. Ray slams him, saying that it's none of anyone's business. Lazarus then explains to her that he's not taking the chains off her until she recovers. Lazarus reveals he will do anything to fix her. Ray then tries to run outside and screams for help. Lazarus then takes her back inside the house. That evening, Lazarus takes Ray out on a walk. Then he rubs some ointment on Ray. She then goes back to her bed and tries to get some sleep. The next morning, Lazarus parks his car at a clothing shop. He then enters the shop and meets with the shopkeeper to buy some clothes for Ray. He also swings by the pharmacy and gives Angela some farm produce and lotion to thank her for helping him. At his house, a boy called Lincoln visits him. Ray hears and tries to open the door, however she fails to do. Lincoln gets back on his way, but suddenly he hears something from Lazarus' house. He then walks back and opens Lazarus's door and Ray tries to make love with him. Lazarus returns and catches Lincoln and Ray making love. Angry Lazarus throws Lincoln out of his house. Lazarus then meets up with his priest friend RL. Lazarus takes him in to see Ray. RL then tells him that she is not the type of lady he should be making love with. Lazarus tells him that he hasn't laid a finger on her. RL then asks him if he's informed the police about it. Lazarus tells that he can't call the police station because they can't handle it. Lazarus asks him to stay for dinner. Lazarus meets Lincoln and apologizes for throwing him out. On the other side, RL discusses with Ray about Christianity. RL then asks about her heaven and she replies Ronnie. Meanwhile, Ronnie returns and goes to a bar. He also meets Gil there. Gil asks him what is he doing here, and then Ronnie explains about his anxiety disorder and they sent him back. Ronnie then asks Gil where is Ray and Gil says he doesn't know. During this time, Ray starts to wear normal clothes. Lazarus then asks Ray to help him in the kitchen and replies that she doesn't know how to cook. At night, Lazarus, Rar, and RL eat dinner together. On the other hand, Ronnie and Gil arrive at Ray's house but they don't find her there. Suddenly Gil tells Ronnie about Ray's behavior, which makes Ronnie angry, so he beats him up. Lazarus also frees Ray from the chains and plays guitar. Lazarus also shares the story of his failed marriage. The next morning Lazarus drives Ray back to town and asks her if she's ready to leave and she replies yes. At the supermarket, Ray sees her mother and tries to reconcile with her. She is surprised by seeing the new Ray but also rejects Race's offer of a coffee. Ray then accuses her of letting her father abuse her. In anger, she throws items at her mother. Lazarus also notices a huge crowd and when he sees it's because of Ray, he carries her and takes her back home. Lazarus tries to calm her down. That night Lazarus tells Ray to get dressed as they are going to the bar. Soon she turns off the alarm and hears the same beep some meters away. In the bar, Lazarus meets RL. Lazarus also picks up his guitar and performs on stage. Everyone including Ray enjoys it. Lazarus continues playing the guitar as Ray dances her heart out and Ronnie stares at the dance floor from outside the bar. The next morning Lazarus wakes up and sees Ray is playing the guitar. Lazarus then asks her how is she feeling. Ray then continues to sing with her eyes closed. Ronnie walks in and attacks Lazarus because he believes he slept with Ray. Ronnie then points a gun at Lazarus but Ray calms him down. Lazarus then calls RL. Then we see Ronnie talking to RL with Ray. Ronnie tells the father his desire to see Ray well. Ray also expresses her feelings and tells the spell she has when she gets the hallucinations. After that, she also explains that she loves Ronnie and he is the only person who calms her down when she hallucinates. She then begs Ronnie not to quit on her as she won't be able to live without him. After that Lazarus drives to Angela's place and asks for her help again. We then see Ronnie trying to wear a tie and Lincoln helps him. On the other hand, Ray is nervous but Lazarus assures her that she could do this. Finally, Ronnie and Ray get married. After the wedding ceremony, they drive off, and also Lazarus and Angela hold each other's hands. And this is how the movie ends. Please like and subscribe. Comment down your thoughts about the movie.